Hello everyone, welcome to week 4 where we will be exploring chapter 3 on perception. This is a really cool chapter with some really awesome topics. So I'm excited and I'm just going to dive in, okay? Now I'm actually going to dive in with something that is not in your book chapter. I want to bring in something from some outside sources and sort of link to where we were way back in week 1, okay? So the very first thing that I want to begin with is the idea that perception is vital to our understanding of the world around us. And in fact, there is nothing in our lives where perception does not play a role, where perception does not give us information or even impact the information that we have. And so I'm not going to explain this next thing too much because it's going to be our first discussion board for the week. In our first discussion board for the week, we're going to be discussing this, and you're going to be digging in. But this idea that perception is reality is a very important thing for us to talk about. I have the big R, little r difference right here, and I think I explained that in week 1, but just in case I didn't, I will explain it now and go into more depth here. This is some outside material that's important here. So perception being reality is an interesting concept, okay? I don't know if you've ever heard it, I don't know if you've said it, but the idea that perception is reality is out there and it's very prevalent, and I think it carries some weight. Now, what's the difference between big R and little r reality, okay? So my example is this. Big R reality is the sun is real. It is real, it is out there, it is a thing that exists. And in fact, the sun is real even if I am born and raised 100% underground, I live and die, and I never see it. It is real. It is real, big R real, even if as someone who was raised, and I wasn't actually, by the way, but as someone who's born and raised underground, who never sees the sun, never enters into my realm of comprehension, that actually does not change the fact that it is real. Does that make sense? That's big R reality, and I can't do anything about big R reality. It just is there. Okay? It is what it is. So, little R reality is the stuff that I actually can sort of make my own meaning of. So, for example, the sun is real is big R reality, but my understanding of it is little r, okay? So, for example, the sun is real, it exists, little r reality. I worship it as a god, okay? There's its physical existence, and then there's my understanding of it, okay? Those are the differences between big R and little r. Now, another way to say this that's important for us to distinguish as we move forward in our study of perception and communication and interpersonal communication is the idea that when it comes to perception and reality and little r reality, okay, I did not capitalize this on purpose. Little r reality is constructed, all right? And another way to say it is it's socially constructed. And to go even further, it's socially constructed through communication. All right, this goes all the way back to week 1 when we switched to tables and chickens. This goes all the way back to week 1 where we said that communication is the symbolic process whereby reality gets produced. That definition uses the word produced. I think construct would probably be a better word because the word produce can sort of almost lean us to create, and that's not what we mean there. So reality is constructed, okay? Most social scientists would say that the world we know isn't out there, okay? The world we know isn't out there. Rather, we create our reality with others through communication. So here we are bringing something from way back in week 1 to bear now here in week 4. So this idea of perception is reality is linked to this idea that reality is constructed, that we construct it within ourselves and with others in communication. That doesn't mean that there aren't things out there, okay? So please note what they're saying here. They're saying the world we know isn't out there. The world we know isn't out there. Okay? there are things out there, all right? We can't dispute that. If I walk into something, whether I know it or not, I'm going to walk into it, okay? But the one we know is constructed within our world. So it doesn't mean that there's not things out there. There are things out there, absolutely. They're real, and they're solid, and we run into them, and we discover them, and we learn about them all the time. And I am making some, if you're a philosophy student, I am making all sorts of epistemological and ontological claims right now about reality and truth. But there are things that are real in the world, okay? And so it's not that things don't exist apart from our communication. It's that we don't know them apart from it, if that makes sense, okay? So this idea that reality being constructed means that we can break it down a little bit. So you've got your first order reality. This is the big R, okay? I mean, it's an oversimplification to say it's a big R, but that's what this would be, okay? So your first order reality, the physically observable qualities of a thing or situation. The sun is real. It is there, all right? Across human history, there has been observations of the thing in the sky. It is there, all right? So first order reality. And so I actually went ahead and capitalized the R there on purpose. You've got big R, first order realities, okay? Second order realities, here I have the little r, okay? Second order realities involve our attaching meaning to first order things or situations. This is my example of, even if I was raised underground, then, even if I worship the sun as a god, okay, that's the second order reality, okay? So, if I was raised underground, coming back to that example, the first order reality would be the sun is there, it's real, there's nothing I can do about it, even if I don't know it. But then in my second order reality, the sun doesn't exist because I never know about it, okay? So, second order realities is where we attach meaning to the first order things or situations, okay? The second order realities don't reside in objects or events, but rather in our minds and our communication with others. This is the part that's constructed, okay? Because I can't construct first order reality. It's just out there, all right? Now, I might not know it, I might not understand it, it might not exist in my realm of being, but it's out there, okay? So, I wanted to cover this idea of perception's link with reality, because this is what we're dealing with. In the reality of our communication with other people, we've got first and second order realities coming together all the time. And so we haven't gotten to nonverbal yet, but we will. And so the first order reality of someone says something, the words come out their face, right? Or with nonverbal communication, something happens nonverbally. You say something and someone rolls their eyes. It's a physically observable quality. It happened. It is real. And then we have the second order reality of the meanings that we attach to those things. And the idea that our communication is only in one of these realms doesn't work. It's in both. And it helps us understand all of this. And so when we're communicating interpersonally, first and second order realities are interacting all the time. They're very important for our understanding of what is happening. Okay? But how do we understand what happens? How do we actually deal with what's happening? Well, this reality that we have and how we deal with it, we have to deal with the perception process. Okay? It might seem weird that in a communication class we're going to study this stuff, but it's actually pertinent to the ways we make meaning. And that's why we do this. So perception is simply the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting information from our senses. So the Brain Games episode, and I risk saying anything in a screencast because it means I have to redo everything, but the Brain Games episode I asked you to watch before this highlights, first of all, those first and second order realities, especially in those first few minutes, right? And then it shows this idea of selecting, organizing, and interpreting. So perception is the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting information from our senses. You can't not have information, okay? In fact, you are pummeled with perceptual information. Even with where you're at right now, you've got the sound, you've got the sound of my voice, the sound of the environment you're in. I don't know what's going on. You may have dogs barking. You may have coffee being made off in the background. You may be trying to close out the world because you have on your headphones, and so it's just my voice. But you have all of this perceptual data that hits you. You've got light information. There are light waves bouncing off of screens. You've got sound waves. You've got the senses and the ways that your hands feel. I don't know what's in your hands right now. You've got the smells. You've got your physiological state. All of this is hitting you right now. And so you have to do something with it. And when we communicate back and forth, we add to that. So we utilize these sound waves, these light waves to communicate. That's really what it is sound waves out my face, lights bouncing off of my body when I'm doing my nonverbals, and we attach meaning to that stuff. So we have to select, organize, interpret to make sense of it. So your book uses this figure to show the process, and it makes good sense. I wanted to just show it real quick. You select, and this is no small feat right here. You select, and then you go into the cycle of organizing and interpret, and then there's a response that comes out of that. But I think that this is where the bulk happens. Now, it's important to select. We do a lot of things, but the idea that we are organizing and interpreting is very important, and that's where a lot of our work is going to be. So let's just dive into each step very quickly, very simply, to move us forward. Okay, so first you have to select. Okay, and what's crazy is how much you select, and what's crazy is how much you don't select. There's so much happening. There's so much that you're able to let go that is important. In fact, it's not for everyone this way who has it, but the folks who live with autism, one of the things that autism does is it takes away the ability to select certain things in your perception. And so, like one of the guys in my family who lives with autism, one of his triggers is sound. And really what that means is that he can't select out certain sounds. He hears you and me talking as loud as the environment. And so going to a loud restaurant can really be a struggle if he doesn't wear some sort of headphones. But if he puts on some headphones that sort of drown out, or some earmuffs even, earmuffs work great. Put on some earmuffs that drowns out the background noise, and it's not that big of a deal. Now, that's not all of what autism is, but it's a good part of it. So the idea that you have to select out and focus your attention on certain things in your environment is important. And so salience deals with the degree to which something is noticeable and significant to us. Certain things in your life are going to be more salient to you. Now, later in the chapter, you're going to see how your personality impacts what is salient. You're going to see how what you're feeling at that time, because we're not to emotion yet, but your emotion. I'm having a hard time today, folks. Sorry. Your emotional state at the time tells you what's more or less salient. So think about yourself in interpersonal conflict. Think about what you're going to select and make meaning of when you're in interpersonal conflict. Certain things are going to be more salient. If I'm in an argument with my significant other, and where normally I would not read anything into a certain body movement. I don't know. I'm trying to be vague, so it applies. But in that moment, that body movement might be more salient, and I select it perceptually. Okay. So the degree to which something is noticeable and significant to us impacts what we select and when, and how we're feeling, our personality, what we're trying to do at the time. In this chapter, it talks about uncertainty reduction theory, which I'll actually do a separate screencast on all the theories, as you'll see this week. So you've got all this stuff that plays into even just what we select. Okay? So step one, you select. You take the information, you take some of it, and you leave some behind. Okay? Then second step, organization. So this is some fascinating stuff, and perception is one of the places where people will be like, oh my gosh, there's so much psychology in interpersonal communication. Yes, we have some overlap. We really do. And I'll continue that in the next screencast.